Hail cheaters and welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
I'm good. We're emerging almost from the second double game week in succession, and it's been a lot, Josh. I feel like, is this podcast us like talking about life after double game weeks?
I saw your head. You picked the title this time. We go back and forth. You know who picks the title, and this time around, I was like, okay, I like this.
Just like thinking about this episode today, and we've been through so much with the emergence of the assistant manager chip. You know, lots of people had luck with the triple captain. It's just been double game week fever.
Yeah,
and
but like smaller, which I like, right?
On a manageable scale, it's true. But the bread and butter for Josh and Brandon is we're single game weekers through and through. I feel
that's true. We fundamentally are SGWers.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Well, let's get right into it then. It's happy Valentine's Day weekend to you, Brendan. I hope you had a good one. Did you?
Super romantic, absolutely. When I said to my partner, like, you know, just give me 5 more minutes to watch the end of this Everton Palace game. I'll be right with you, babe.
That one I didn't see a minute of it. What was I doing? I must have been doing something yesterday. That was a rough featured match. You and I actually saw that match in person. We saw
that fixture at Selhurst Park.
Palace. Yeah, exactly.
Similar result. Everton probably had an easier win when we saw them last November at Selhurst Park, but I will go out on a limb and say I really enjoyed watching that 90 minutes of Palace Everton, where it was, you know, it wasn't like the highest quality football, but it was a seesaw battle. And,
I watched a lot this weekend. I mean, I saw I did the quad box multi-view for the 10 a.m. The 3 p.m. fixtures in the UK time, and there was a lot of interesting things that we're going to talk about in a second. The Marmouche, sort of emerging, a new fantasy asset emerges, Brandon, and
new Egyptian just dropped.
Yeah, exactly. It's always interesting when they do the quad box in the US, and I know in the UK this is not an option still because they have it's still very hard to watch as the volume of matches that you may want to watch. They weren't trying to encourage people to go to the stadiums to see these things. But it's always interesting to see what's not on there, and usually it's the game that's on the cable, right? Yeah. The or whatever, YouTube TV,
Court
in my
TV.
case. Yeah. And this time around, it was, you had Villa playing, Man City, West Ham. They went with the Fulham Forest match, which I thought was like a credit to both of those clubs, that was considered a big enough match to be the featured television match for the day.
Yeah, and another great game, and another really unpredictable result. God, Fulham. If the cards fell just the right way, Fulham would be in Forest shoes, and Forest would be. Well, Forest have been a little bit more emphatic than Fulham have, obviously, to their credit. But man, Fulham they could easily be in the top 4 if they didn't blow like results every other weekend. I
know, but I mean, you have to be. It's a great season. They're 8th. I just pulled up the table. Yeah, 8th.
It's
3 wins in 5. Yeah,
it's like complaining about a pretty good fantasy season. What we're doing here with Fulham,
and they might have a chance, right? Because I can't remember exactly how. If it's going to if the coefficient, I'm a little confused now about Champions League.
Does it have something to do with how far the England teams go in the Champions League itself this season?
It may be, yeah. What's amazing is that they're actually, if it weren't for Forest and Bournemouth, they would probably be in a Champions League spot, right? Because they're 8th in the table, or if not a Champions League spot, like a Europa Conference League or one of these. The table right now it feels pretty stable with Liverpool winning again. It's now it felt like they had a little bit of a dip, but I think it just felt that way because of the late draw in the Everton match. I mean, they won 4-5, and the other match is a draw. So basically Arsenal have done exactly the same, taken 13 from 15, and things have not changed, right? And so at the moment, because Liverpool don't play the second game of this double game week until Wednesday, they're up by 7 points, and in terms of goal difference, they're up 7 on Arsenal as well. And I genuinely don't know how Arsenal can make up that goal difference.
Yeah, I mean, you say that there hasn't been much of a dip, and I know you're looking at the table strictly, but the standout stat from Sunday was Liverpool failed to register a single shot in the second half against Wolverhampton, while Wolves registered 10 shots on the Liverpool goal. It was a struggle for Liverpool today, and Arsenal fans would have been licking their lips for a little bit. I mean, knowing Arsenal fans like I do, they probably were just like, oh, woe is me. It's never going to go our way. But still, Liverpool are showing signs of like the season is starting to take a little bit of its toll. They are lucky to have a healthy, fit, and deep squad, like Gakpo not being fit to start. No matter. You've got Jota, you've got Darwin, you've got Diaz. It's all good.
The Jota thing was interesting with him winning the pen. It looked in real time like a clear pen. I have to admit, that was a case where VAR did not feel overly like it made sense. Like it was a good review.
Yeah, right. But I would have taken the pen anyway.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It would have been fine. All right. Well, let's talk about our fantasy then. So I'll start off here. I am on. I think we're actually on equal points. I'm on 60 points, but I took a -4 this week. So I'm on 56 net, and I have 4 players to go plus assistant manager slot. So I'm feeling like my actual safety score is I'm 1 above, right? So I have a green arrow and it's like 1 point. Like if I had 1 fewer point, I would be basically neutral, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've got a slight green arrow, but then because I've got the 4 players to go plus the assistant manager, I'm feeling pretty good about ending this week on a green arrow. It would take some unusual returns. I feel like I don't even know what it would take, like a Van Dijk brace. I don't know, like a Ederson style assist from Allison. Like it would take some kind of fluky things. Maybe Diaz really going off. That might hurt me a tiny bit too. Darwin coming back would hurt.
Yeah.
I mean Gakpo. Sorry, not Darwin.
Yeah, you had the great fortune of locking in that Trent Alexander-Arnold clean sheet, and I knew when he went off, I was like, this is bad news for any owners of any other Liverpool defensive asset.
In theory, it's good news because they brought in a better defender, but it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Gravenberch, you could pin it on him for basically like jumping in on the Cunha fake, but we don't need to litigate that. It was
a great goal. I mean, I agree with what you were saying about like Wolves really taking it to Liverpool in that match, but the actual goal that Cunha scored was fantastic. I thought it was really impressive.
He is an elite finisher for sure.
Yeah.
I'm on 56 as well. I spent 1 of my 2 free transfers and rolled 1, and my season has definitely like stalled over the last month, which is frustrating. I'm on a green arrow right now. I follow your logic where I'll probably hold that green arrow, but I've moved I've moved roughly 9,000 spots from 265 to 256. As
you start to approach the top 100K, though, it does get trickier, right? It doesn't take much to dip, right, or to like drop.
It does, and I would take anything, though. I mean, I just haven't been able to find an edge over the last month or so. The Vissa pickup last game week has not worked, and just trying to gain any sort of edge over Trent owners with Allison, I felt like I've been in position to do that, and just hasn't panned out. I think the closest I got to victory this weekend was my one transfer was I moved Lewis Hall from Newcastle to Hodgson on Bournemouth. And, it was just one decent chance for Southampton that became a goal and that wiped out. And Hodgson was on a bonus at that time. So that was another opportunity loss. So, I mean, I at least like in the positive column for my team, I'm at least kind of like treading water. It's not like I've like just like shot myself in the foot and like fell back 500,000 spots.
Yeah.
So I'm poised, Josh. I'm just waiting for it to happen. It's sort of like I hit my growth spurt and now I'm waiting for that girl to finally kiss me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I felt good about my transfers this week too, because I went off book. I looked at review, didn't like the options that were presented, and I said, I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. And I had the money almost just I'm literally out of cash. I spent all of it to finally drop Bruno. who I turned into Utara, and then I brought in Ollie Watkins as well, who replaced the injured Njai from Everton. And so that's actually worked out great. I mean, I got goals from both of them. So I'm on 15 points just from those two with Watkins still to play. If I had done just like one of those moves, or if I hadn't made those moves, I would be on 2 from Bruno and 5 from Jimenez, right? So 7. So even if you add the -4 to that, it's +4 with and I don't have to have Bruno in my squad anymore, which feels like
I have an idea. Let's spend 30 minutes talking about Manchester United's crisis. Should we do that?
I mean, it's tempting. It's really there's nothing to say. It's honestly moved into the bummer zone, right? It's just like it bums me out. Like it's not that I'm like a supporter of theirs, but the like kind of for a long, long time, Brendan, for many, many years, probably through the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era, I would say, it brought me great joy to see Man United lose matches and bring in 47-year-old Cristiano Ronaldos and Zlatans, and it was and like just have no plan, and it was kind of fun, right? But at some point, you're like, I think it'd be more fun if they were good or something, or like interesting if they had like a young squad. I mean, like. It doesn't seem like it's that hard to do, right? Liverpool have been able to do it.
I wasn't serious about spending 30 minutes on this.
Well, how can you not talk about it a little bit? It's like, it's wild, right? They're on TV constantly. There's no avoiding Man United.
The way I look at it is it's just, we have those teams, and they just happen to be Bournemouth and Forest. So go take a hike.
By the way, one thing we didn't talk about is we got 8 points each from Slot. And one of the things we'll talk about ahead of Game Week 26 is possible moves to make with Slot if you decide you want to, burn a transfer, turn him into somebody else. But I just thought right at the top here, I would do a very quick recap, Brandon, and I'll actually share the rules with you as well, because I had a moment where I was like, I feel like I don't actually know.
Well, see, I've just committed to not knowing is my thing, but I guess I'm going to know now, so that's fine. That's for the best.
Well, I feel like I have to know because it's so confusing to not know, and then like when these matches are over, I'm like, did I get points or not? Like, I think even like the Everton match, I was like, oh, I got 5 points from
that.
And the app
is no help in the moment, in real time.
In real time, it's confusing. Yeah, exactly. So managers, okay, so a win. So you activate your assistant manager chip, right, Brandon? You got your manager for that game.
Got it.
A win is worth 6 points. So quite a lot, really, 6 points. Draw is worth 3. Loss is 0. Goals scored by your team is worth 2 points, right? A clean sheet is also worth 2 points. So that's how we got to.
Now, a goal scored by your team is 1 point, it looks like.
Or 1 point, right? Sorry, but I meant 2. We got 2 goals from Liverpool, so 2 points for that. Yes. Okay. So we got the win plus the 2 goals, and we didn't get a clean sheet bonus. And then there are table bonuses. Okay, that's this is the kind of trick that they use to get other like managers. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just pick Slot, right, for every single one, or Arteta or whatever? And so managers are eligible for the table bonus if their club's league position is 5 lower than the opponent at the game week deadline, right? So if you are like going into this week, I don't have the fixtures pulled up right now, but there are a number of fixtures. I haven't pulled up for later on in the pod. There are a number of fixtures where there's a team that is like 13th playing a team that's 7th, right? So in that case, you would be eligible for bonus points if your team won this week. And if you do that, if you get a table win, that's worth 10 points, and even a draw is worth 5, right? So in theory, a like 2-0 Ipswich win this weekend would be worth like 20 plus points, right, on the assistant manager.
Well, so Marco Silva for Fulham is a great example of this. Right. Did he finish on a 21
the Newcastle points. Match? Yeah, exactly.
The Forest match, where Forest quite a scalp in Fulham's position in the table. Is
that right? Oh, did he actually? I actually didn't realize that. I was thinking, well, he got the win away to Newcastle too a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So Yeah,
Fulham, so good.
Just pick Fulham, right? that's the argument.
That is the trick. I think that they could have made it slightly more complicated, but for the better, to do like an escalating bonus where it's not just there has to be a 5-place gap to get a bonus. There should just be a standard bonus for how far your team is away from the opposing.
So if it's like 14 table spots, that's 14 points.
Absolutely.
Like that?
Because that's a pretty astonishing upset. Would you agree?
I would agree. You framed it so that it would be hard for me to disagree with you. But yes,
exactly.
I do.
Yeah, that's why they call me the negotiator.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree. So Fulham play, just to go through the logic here. So Fulham play Crystal Palace this weekend. They are above Palace in the table, so you would not get a table bonus there. Ipswich plays Spurs, though, Brandon. And Spurs, by dint of their victory over Man United this weekend, and I'll shout out our friends who got the assist because he noted this online. They moved far enough away that if Ipswich win, you'd be eligible for a 10-point bonus. And I think that Ipswich have a very good chance of winning that match against Spurs this weekend.
McKenna is the move. I think what we kind of have to discuss later in the pod, Josh, is are you and I willing to spend a free transfer in order to do that?
I think so. And okay. But you know what? You're right. Let's save it for later because otherwise we'll go down that road too far. So let's talk a little bit about the matches this weekend, though. Well, actually, just a reminder that we have the second match of the double game week is on Wednesday afternoon. Liverpool travel to Villa, and should be a very interesting match between Villa. Really disappointing draw. I thought Morgan Rogers was it was driving me crazy. It's like he was like he did everything right except he couldn't score. It was just the whole match was just like watching him almost convert chances.
He can move the ball with the best of them. It's just his finishing is not. He's not like that. Yeah. He hasn't found that messy side to his game yet.
Yeah, 0.83 xG for the match, which is that is extremely high. A frustrating match. Although we did get the Watkins goal, a pretty lucky goal, honestly. A ricochet off the crossbar that he just kind of volleyed in.
And it really does paper over just his abysmal finishing in the first half. There was a particular chance where he was clearing on goal, and it's not been his season. And I think Watkins needs to be careful here, or he could be competing for minutes with Evan Ferguson at West Ham.
I don't know. It's still 11 goals and five assists on the season. That's pretty strong.
I mean, they're numbers. They're numbers, but I don't know if somebody watching Watkins' performance this season says I can work with that.
Well, fair enough. And but he has not missed a single match this season. I would have thought just at some point this season he would have missed a match, but I'm going through it and did not miss a single one. He has not started every single match, but he hasn't missed a match so far this year.
That's a perfect attendance award for Ollie. Well done, son.
But it's a little bit like Luis Diaz, where you're like, well, I remember the last year was like, well, Diaz was off, but he missed. And then you look and you're like, wait, he started 34 matches.
So I guess my takeaway from the Villa Ipswich match, just staying on the Villa front, is we talked about Villa's defense being beaten up going into this match.
Yep.
And Kamara, who'd been playing a makeshift center back, goes out injured within 16 minutes.
Yeah.
I had not caught this news that Disasi had moved from Chelsea to Villa in January. Can't say I rated that guy when he was at Chelsea, so this doesn't fill me with great hope. And do we have any understanding as to why Dean came off at halftime? I mean,
he just does it all the time, right? I think that's the only. I didn't see a specific reason, but it feels like. I mean, didn't Dean come up 45 minutes 2 weeks before as well? It's
and I think Emery clearly is trying to blood Mattson, who they think is the future of that position. Yeah. But anyway, as slot assistant manager guys, the two of us, and solid captain, there's every chance that we just get all Liverpool points on Wednesday to help us.
I think Salah, it's funny because in some ways he's starting to feel like a Bruno style pen merchant, or it's like he's not really he took I thought he took a nice pen today. Like I wouldn't quite call it a Panenka because he hit it too hard. It was just kind of down the middle, right? Like does a Panenka have to like have a little
you dink
parabola?
it. Yes, you dink. You basically you humiliate the goalkeeper.
Right. It wasn't that.
It was what's the nasty dunk like Matrix
the disrespectful
dunk Matrix. I think the Panenka is like that. But I think Salah, to his credit, had a great classic Salah breakaway cut-in finish from Trent that was marginally offside today. So had that worked out for Salah, then maybe.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying he played badly, but it just feels like he's had a lot of pens in recent weeks that have other matches that might have been blanks have turned into successful matches just because of the pen, which is fine. I mean, that's why you have pen takers and that's why you captain them. But it doesn't feel like maybe he's imposing his will on the matches, quite the same way.
The assists, though, like he has the most assists in the league. So his goal involvement shows that it's not just the pens where he's all right.
You won't even let me go in a little bit.
I'm not having.
Listen,
this.
23 goals and 14 assists in the season. There's really it's nitpicky to find anything to complain about. So and then we talked about Trent already, and then no Gakpo today. We'll see about midweek. I wouldn't be surprised if he at least got minutes at midweek.
He looked sparkling on the sideline. He looked like he was just having fun.
Should be fine. It's a lot of matches right now. There's really no reason to risk it when you've got especially when Jota's healthy, right? You really do have plenty of squad depth up front, so there's no need to risk it. They have more than almost anybody really in the Premier League. Honestly, it's kind of wild how it's sort of. It requires Jota to be healthy for sure, but like when Jota's healthy and Darwin's playing well, it's not bad. There's a lot of options.
Yeah.
So to kick back to Friday for a second, Chelsea-Brighton, weird match. I did not have a 3-0 Brighton win it's the second time Brighton beat them in a week too. I find Brighton sort of puzzling from a fantasy point of view, maybe just in general. I don't quite know what to make of them, if there's any value in any of their assets, right? It's like, I feel like I've tried a couple of times this year, didn't really come to pass, right? It's sort of, Matoma has actually, I guess, been the one who's been the most consistent. It's got 3 double-digit returns in the last 5 matches. But then it's like you look before that, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 consecutive blanks, right? And so, which is, his price isn't crazy, but it's like it feels like it's hard to predict when you're going to get big Matoma numbers.
My takeaway from that match from Brighton was that Welbeck was in elite form again, like he was at the start of the season, like just the way he was controlling the ball in the box and serving it up for his teammates. I thought he looked incredible. Yeah. So, he's just back. Well, he's not just back. He's been back for like a month and he's starting to get like full 90s now. I think we'll see more returns from him. Yeah. And people are sort of like looking at, are we looking for forwards? I can never tell if we're looking for forwards, but 5.5 is quite reasonable. And if you're just like, if you don't want to, if you can't stand the sight of Vissa anymore, that's an interesting one.
Or Jimenez, who is consistent, but just kind of frustrating. I don't know. Maybe I'm feeling like overly, I'm feeling like a little more positive about the Premier League in terms of the kind of quality. Like I'm just looking at the top 10 of the table right now. And I guess I'm sort of putting fantasy aside for a second, but it's like, like Brighton are 10th right now on the table. Brentford are 11th. Like those are quite good teams. They're like, they're inconsistent, I guess, but they're quite good. And you got Fulham, Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth. Somehow Chelsea, it's like, it's wild to me that they're still like fighting for a Champions League spot. It feels like they just have so many bad losses in them, but that
performance against Brighton was like insipid. It was
weird one.
So bad.
I know. And not what I was expecting coming off the FA Cup loss either. So yeah, but Palmer, it's like maybe tempting to think about dropping him, but after 26, they have Southampton and Leicester and back-to-back home matches. So really, there's just nothing. It's like you might as well just table the Palmer question for the next 3 weeks. There's nothing else to do.
Agreed.
I wouldn't take anybody else in that squad though. No, I wouldn't have any defenders, any other midfielders. Don't trust anybody.
Yeah, and Nicholas Jackson, maybe like a big miss for them. And Cuckoo didn't affect the match one bit.
Yeah, it's always going to be like, I know, it's like Timo Werner style. What is it about RB Leipzig players, Brandon? Like former RB Leipzig players.
Roast beef.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. It's
not
weird.
Red Bull. Roast
yeah,
beef.
I know. Yeah, we need RB.
Guys?
We need rapid
RBs.
We need a
RB's
different,
Leipzig.
A different. What's the other RB? Is it Rapid? Is it Vienna? RB Vienna? There's another RB in Austria, right?
Yeah. Well, you've got. Well, listen, we're swimming into the deep end here, Josh. Red Bull.
Red Bull Salzburg.
They have teams all over the world, though. The RB, like, didn't Klopp go to work for RB Incorporated?
Arby's. He went to work for Arby's. Yeah, he went to work for Arby's.
He loves that 5 for $5.55 deal.
Exactly. It was wild to see him at my local Arby's manager.
Yeah,
he's a manager,
serving you a big Montana.
Yeah, exactly. He's a.
Well, with teeth like that, he could sling some horsey sauce. You know what I'm saying?
He would exactly. He'd be huge too. He's like 6'7", right? It'd be bizarre to see him in an Arby's. You wouldn't be able to miss him. So Arsenal, 2-0 win, 2 late goals. I mean, I think they're just going to try to 1-0 and 2-0 their way to a title shot. It's maybe things change when Saka comes back, but it's just so unpredictable. There's no one that you could. I mean, I guess you kind of got a return from Trossard, right? You got an assist, not much.
He was stinky PU in the first half, absolutely awful. But if you picked him up, I think you feel grateful. I would say you feel equal parts grateful and vindicated to get the assist from Trossard, because I think the logic was there, and I think that the logic holds because nobody else is going to take Trossard's spot, I would say. But Odegaard was the big story for me coming out of that match of like, oh, right, Odegaard has been fit for months now, and he is having clearly you'll be impacted by the injury layout that Odegaard did, but he's been terrible since he came back from injury.
I know. It's like little moments here and there where you can like see the magic still. So let's see. So we talked about the Fulham win, but of course we didn't talk about Chris Wood. He, even in the loss, he scores and takes 3 bonus points.
Ridiculous goal. Yeah. So there's, when it's on, when it rains, it pours for old Chris Wood.
That's amazing. All the Bournemouth mids got a piece in the Southampton win. So
even old Tavernier,
that's true. Even old Tavernier. Christie got involved. Everyone got a piece.
Amazing goals too. Like poor Ramsdale, just like one nightmare match after another, but just like random Bournemouth guys just ripping shots past you from 20 yards out.
It's a crazy, the arc of Arsenal keepers. It's like, I don't know how Emi Martinez got away with it. Everybody else is like,
he stole all the goalkeeper souls when he left Arsenal.
I guess Bernd Leno's done a pretty good job at Fulham.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good point.
So maybe it's just Ramsdale, really. It's tough. All right. So then Marmoush hat trick. Haaland was cleared, by the way, after an injury scare. I guess I don't really know what to say about Marmoush. I mean, I thought, like I said, I watched the match. It was the one I had the sound on for, and so I was pretty. Obviously, it'd be amazing actually to watch 4 TVs and have 4 sounds on and try to pick them out. But
it'd be like that Flaming Lips album.
Yeah, because it's Zyreka. Yeah, exactly. So it's his first 3 goals for Man City. They all came in the same match. He said, 2. This is his 3rd consecutive start. He's a forward. So talk about forward options. He's 7 million, so not crazy. And so it's possible he ends up in that kind of Alvarez zone where he's kind of the second forward to Haaland, but half the price. And I had Alvarez for like 30 weeks last season, right? Yeah. So if that's where he ends up, that's great. I mean, certainly Man City, I don't know, it was an impressive performance. I don't know, what it portends. If they've turned a corner or not. It seems like they bought pretty well. And
Kusanov is terrible, though. I'm feeling very negative today. I'm sorry about that, but
no,
it's sort of like the balance of the force there, where Marmouche looks amazing and Kusanov, by my read, is not quite there.
Yeah, I feel like there's one more too, isn't there? Are we forgetting one? Is there a third? Then maybe I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking of right now. Maybe I'm thinking of.
I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, I don't know. And are we ever going to see? Who's the guy who got injured at the start of the season? His name
Oscar Bob.
Yeah, Oscar Bob. I've not even seen him right now on the list of.
That would be incredible if he came out to present the award for Best Picture at this year's Oscars.
Yeah,
and that would be he comes out, he presents the Oscar to some stupid movie, and then he says, "And now I am officially announcing that I am back from injury."
Oscar Bob. It sounds like it's like a man named Bob who gives out the Academy Awards, right? Like Oscar
Bob from Twin Peaks. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh, Bob. Yeah, B-O-B. Yeah. All right. So. Yeah, and then Salah delivered again. We talked about that a little bit already. So I think that's enough of a recap. The one thing I did want to note is that Game Week 32 has been announced. It is a terrible double for Palace, who play away to Man City and away to Newcastle, and a pretty good one for Newcastle, who host Man United and Crystal Palace. Yeah. That is not till Game Week 32. So that is 7 weeks and an international break away. It's a long way off, but it is something to at least kind of think about. It's possible that there's some. I'm now not leaning towards a wild card or a free hit in 29. The teams that don't play in 29 are Liverpool, Newcastle, Palace, Villa. It's not that hard, I feel like, over the next couple of weeks to free up enough space to not have to free hit, in 29. I mean, it's especially if you don't have 3 Liverpool players, like if you have 2 in slot.
Yeah, and there's no Liverpool player, I would argue, worth keeping apart from Salah. So
right, Trent
dump him, Gakpo dump him, Alisson dump him, all that.
Exactly. So it should be pretty easy to navigate 29 now, given who's in it. I think that's it for kind of quick news and notes. Did want to say a quick thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating, get an extra podcast each week. So after Game Week 25 concludes, the Thursday after, we'll do a quick Patreon pod and say hello to everybody, and talk about game. We just say hello. We just pop on and say hello and then pop right off.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, we say hello, and then usually it's a kind of match preview, a little looser. It can be a lot of fun. People like the bonus pod a lot, and so we also have an ad-free podcast feed for you, as well as kit giveaway contests and all sorts of other stuff. I don't know why it was such a struggle for me to get through that little Patreon read, Brandon.
That was good.
Yeah, it was decent.
I followed you.
It was decent. But patreon.com/alwayscheating is where you can go to support the podcast. Say thank you to the cheaters. If that is just not workable for you right now, you could just go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast and just give us a quick 5-star review just to help people find the pod.
Here. Yes.
All right. So let's talk now, Brandon, about Game Week 26. Another Friday kickoff, which I kind of like. I mean, sometimes it's because I enjoyed, I want to watch the match. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're not good. But what I mostly like is not having to sweat out my transfer decisions late on a Friday. I like my hand being forced, right? Like even this week, I was like, I think this is the move I want to make. And I just made it, right? And I didn't really have too much time to kind of talk myself into something very complicated. And it's often 11:45 on a Friday night is when I start to consider wild card options and things like that.
You can hear the clock ticking in the background. You're like, I have to go to bed. And then when you get increasingly tired, your decision making more poor. Yeah. So to make these Friday deadline decisions in the cold light of day, it's much like when we do pods in the afternoon. They're better. They're way better than this.
This is early evening, so it's like a hybrid for us, like a hybrid golf club. It's a little bit of both. So Leicester,
a nice bubble shaft on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Titanium podcast. this is so Leicester Brentford is the match. I think this could be fun. I think that Leicester have a shot. It's someone must have done some research on this, but I just feel like in general these night matches tend to give the home team a little bit of an edge. There's just a little. You and I have been to a number of night matches.
We've been to a King Power night match.
King Power night, which is an amazing experience. It was awesome. So I do think that Leicester. I mean, Brentford can kind of a little bit like Spurs. They can kind of defeat or lose to anybody.
Brentford at night.
Well, in the G Tech, not Brentford on the away.
A brief aside, my friend Kevin, who may or may not listen to this podcast, would always hang out with him in high school and his dad was, he was always free to drive us around. I can't remember exactly why, but he participated in the Vietnam War for the U.S. Army, and he talks about going into the Army recruitment office and he had to volunteer, and he had to take a little test so they could figure out what his skill set was. Okay. And he remembers one question on this entrance test, and it asked, Ron, do you like to hunt at night? So in hindsight, it's just like a very sort of portentous.
Are you secretly Craven the Hunter? It's like we have to know.
Anyway, I just do these Premier League teams. How would they fare in the jungle, and they how do they fare on a Friday night?
It's interesting. Yeah, I feel like we've seen some classic Friday night matches over the years, and then a lot of them like this. I thought this the Brighton Chelsea match was a little bit of a. I mean, I'm not a Brighton supporter, so but in fact, you and I have seen a night match at Brighton as well, haven't we? We saw Brighton West Ham, which was fine. It was honestly, to be totally honest here, Brand, to be totally brutally honest, my least favorite Premier League match experience. I have to say, the
burger didn't put us off on the right foot there. We had to pee really bad when we got to that stadium as well.
It's true. We were like kind of late too, I feel like, right? So we kind of had to I feel like we were rushing a little bit. And so, maybe I'll just, we'll just say that the Amex, maybe we should have been there during the day, and if you and I had gotten there like the day before, gone to I've heard about these lovely Brighton beaches, we could have, could have done that. We could have hung out with Nick Cave possibly. There's a lot of things we could have done had we got there
Fat
a little
Boy
early.
Slim.
Exactly. Fat Boy Slim. Maybe both of them together if we could.
That'd be great.
The four of us in a room together,
we could write a hit song.
Yeah, exactly. It would just come up organically, I think, in the conversation. And by the way, let me share the fixtures with you as we're talking these through.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think I think it'll be an interesting match. I would say at the moment I am leaning towards my team looks fine for game week 26. I really don't see any changes that need to be made unless we get some injury updates in the next couple of days. Let's hope we don't. But if so, then I feel like I'm leaning towards basically either saving the transfer or using it on a assistant manager change. And my feeling is, for some of the reasons we talked about at the start of the pod, is that I think an assistant manager change is worth it because, as we just discussed, to me, it's just like, especially if you're not doing amazing in the season, it's worth the gamble to just try to see if you can pick up 20 points, right? And grab one of these table bonus. It's like, it's with Slot so far, it's worked out great. We've had him for double game weeks. And I mean, we've netted I think 23 points already. Right.
This is, I think, important in that it's still worth the assistant manager chip maybe being conservative, because going for guaranteed wins nets you a fair amount of points. And that's what we've seen with Slot, even if they weren't double game weeks, like just getting 8 to 12 points to 15 at a shot is good.
But I do think that the Man City match is a tricky one, right? Like, I think that is the one that is,
sure.
It's not like Man City 2 years ago or something, but it's still, I think, a very tricky match.
And I don't say that in defense of Slot and game week 26. I just say that if managers are looking for alternatives to be like, they don't have McKenna isn't that far of a stretch, frankly, to get the points, but it like going for Arteta, honestly, against West Ham, like defensible, like to get a 2-0 against that's 15 points. So I'm not opposed.
I think that would be fine. I think that Arteta is definitely the safest move. I think that I'm kind of leaning towards the just going for it, given my rank too. I think there's something to be said for just taking a risk. And so basically what you're looking for now, right? Because it's a 1 week, so you don't have the double. Because I agree with you, for a double game week. Although it honestly worked out great. I mean, if you had Moyes last week, you were, but like, today or yesterday illustrates why going with someone who's not as reliable could be a problem, right? Like, I mean, how many points did Emery net in yesterday's match?
Like 2. Let's see. Maybe it was more than that. 1 goal scored plus a draw, so that's 2 points. Is it 2 points?
I guess he got 4. Yeah, okay. I've already forgotten how the scoring works. I think it was I think it was 3 points for a draw plus 1 point plus 1 point for a goal. So he ended up on 4. Okay. So yeah, not that different from Slot, really. I mean, 4 points is not nothing, but it's that's a goal from a forward. But yeah. So basically, what I would be looking for, what I am looking for this week, are clubs that can score goals, that could possibly keep a clean sheet, and that could win, right? And that are ideally 5 spots lower than the team that they're playing, so that even if they don't win, they have the possibility for a table draw, right? Which is still worth 5 points, right? So it has a lot of value there. And then you have the kind of upside of a possible win as well, right? And you get the other win points too. So it's like so again, you could get like a 2-0 win would be 5, 6, 7, plus the clean sheet, right? So whatever that is, like 9 points plus the plus the table bonus is what, 19 points. So it's huge, right? Like that's like, so you could get, and again, this is like best case scenario, but still, I mean, like that's massive upside. That's triple captain upside in a single game week, right? So I do think it's worth it. And so I think what you'd be looking at are Leicester, Brentford, Ipswich, Spurs, Southampton, Brighton, and Villa, Chelsea, I don't think would qualify. Let me just pull up the table here. Villa they're only 3 spots back of Chelsea, so you wouldn't be able to use that one. Man City, Liverpool are too close. You wouldn't be able to use that one either. Newcastle, Forest, same thing. Forest had won. I think you might have been able to use that.
Palace qualify against Fulham, I suppose. They're in 13th, where Fulham is in 8th. I mean, does that count?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. I like it less just because it's an away match. That's the only thing that makes it a little. I just feel like in general, it's like I would say I'm leaning towards the Ipswich match because Ipswich have been defensively stronger since Greaves came back. They are, they can score goals. Like we saw it shorthanded in the Villa match, right? They've got a ton to play for right now because they're basically, it's them and Wolves, right, that are fighting to stay up this year. They've been able to have a couple of good wins at home already this season, and Spurs are just incredibly unpredictable, right? You just really don't know what you're going to get. They could beat Ipswich 5-0, absolutely, and they could lose 3-0. Right? Like I think those are like 2 totally reasonable outcomes. And so that would it kind of leans me towards McKenna a little bit as the move.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you take the swing, you take the gamble, you go for McKenna. Otherwise, it's Arteta. I think those are the opposing ends of the assistant manager chip spectrum.
Yeah. If you like what you were saying before, if you got even more points, if it was like a larger table difference, then I think Southampton probably would be a like a little bit of a punt just because Brighton are so unpredictable. But as it is, I don't like it as much. I mean, for one thing, there's no chance of a clean sheet with Southampton, right? So you're already out on that.
Yeah, they're just not going to win. At least you could go into the Ipswich Spurs match with a certain amount of belief that Ipswich can pull it out.
That it's at least possible, right? And I mean, Leicester. And what's funny is that Leicester and Southampton actually have a win more recently than Ipswich do. But Ipswich just, I don't know. Maybe it's just like an eye test thing. I just feel like I trust Ipswich more to pull it off.
Yeah, and as much as painful as it's been to play Brentford fantasy-wise the last couple of weeks, it does feel like they're playing to their strengths recently in terms of being organized and just I think they're in a decent Brentford vein of form.
They were really in control of that West Ham match. Yeah, it was unusual, like unlikely that they were. Like, I don't know how it ended up 1-0. It felt like it could have been 3 or 4-0. And the one goal they scored was a crazy goal, like this, like bizarre.
Totally.
Yeah. I kept trying to figure out if there was any way I could get a Mbomo, assist out of that, but there was nothing doing.
No.
All right. So I think that's kind of where I am. If you had Unai Emery, Villa host Chelsea, and one of the reasons I'm looking at the assistant manager again is just because because that I don't know, just like it feels like at the very least, like it's hard for me to imagine Liverpool like keeping a clean sheet and having a big away win. It's not impossible, right? Given how Man City are playing this year, but I just don't love it. It just like it feels like I'd be kind of dreading that match, and I'd like it feels fun to me to have Ipswich for a week and just kind of root for them.
Yeah, and the last match, like sometimes having a player, particularly an attacking player, in the last match of the game week is fun because it's sort of like everything here is gravy.
Yep.
I feel like having an assistant manager in that last match of the game week will be like having a defender and being like, all that can happen is points being taken away from me.
Yeah, exactly. It just feels kind of grim, doesn't it? So, okay, I think so if I had Emery, I would be, here's how I feel. If I had Emery and I liked my squad and didn't feel like I needed to make a transfer, or I had multiple transfers, I would probably also make the swap to one of these high upside giant killer kind of, I don't know, Ipswich Spurs is not exactly a giant killing, but like the table bonus match. If I had a problem to fix in my squad, I would probably, and I only had like one transfer, I would probably just hold him because I think that there's a good chance they win that match, given Chelsea's form. And Villa, I don't know, Villa should have, it's crazy that they got a draw in that match. They should have won it. And so, and so I think that's where I come down on the assistant managership for this week.
I would agree with you. I can't think of another way to argue it. I wouldn't make the argument of taking a -4 to switch up your assistant manager chip. I think the priority here would be with your starting 11 versus your manager.
What is your situation going into 26? Like, how are you feeling about your team?
I'm going into 26. I've got 2 free transfers, and my main problem is Amad Diallo, who is out for the rest of the season. I haven't been starting him of late, not since his hat trick heroics. So it's not like oh crap, I don't have a starting goalkeeper. But I think Amad to Utara is the obvious move for me, and I think Amad's price has already dropped. I could see it dropping once again this transfer window where I'd lose money. So I think I'm going to do him out for Bournemouth mid. Yeah. And the funny thing, if I move, so I could use my other transfer to move slot to McKenna, and that would actually give me enough money to bring in Kluivert instead of Dango. So that's
I think I actually prefer that move. The latter move to bring in Kluivert. Kluivert looks awesome. Like he's, I think he only got an assist in that match, but I felt like he had even more chances. Like he was excellent.
Yeah, I have been, I was kvetching about my team at the start of the pod, but what I think I've done right this season is, is gone for the bargain every time, like having enough money to do the moves that I want week in, week out. And, I'm going to have to do some soul searching of like, is the upgrade to Kluivert worth it? I think I agree with you. It just depends are really what you're after as a fantasy manager. So I tend to agree, but 5.1 versus 6, it makes you stop and pause.
I honestly, that gap has gotten wider than I realized. I mean, that was a lot closer a couple of weeks. That was more like 5.6 to 5.1 a while ago. Yeah, getting to almost 1 million is quite a lot, considering that you do get Atara as an out of position. Oops, permission denied.
Oh, you've got to log in.
What happened there? Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. Well,
I'm not going to do this with my.
Yeah, exactly. Let me just key in here in front of everybody.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. I mean, I'm not going to take a hit, and I don't have the stomach to hold Slot, I think, ultimately. Well, it is annoying to lose a free transfer. Like, we've talked about this many times.
I don't like that you have to pay money for the assistant manager. I don't like, it's like it should just be like a goofy bonus thing that is going to like decide mini leagues.
Yeah. So where are you at? Do you have anything you need to do apart from your assistant manager?
At the moment, no.
Yeah.
The only question for me at the moment with my squad is, and I was able to walk back in, is I'm leaning towards. I have to decide if I want to start Trent or not, and the question would be, who would I bench? Right now, I've got Branthwaite, Robinson, and Hall as my trio, and I guess if I were to. I probably ultimately will. I think I'll do it as we're talking here on the pod. I think I do slightly prefer Trent to Hall as just for Trent's upside as a. There's a little bit of clean sheet potential, not a ton, but plenty of attacking potential, and it's hard for me to imagine Forrest not scoring really. And
they do it all the time.
They do it all the time, and Hall. I mean, when is the last time he had a good game week? I guess it's
been a while. Go back to Stained style.
Yeah, 21. I mean, he was on fire for a minute there, but
he was.
But otherwise, yeah, it might have just been a hot run because if you go back, he really didn't do anything the first 15 weeks of the season. Had a little run, and now he's back to lots of blanks. So
yeah, Newcastle they've dipped a bit. I mean, their only win in the last month in the league is against Southampton, and that's nothing to brag about. So there was a little worrying there for Newcastle supporters.
So the other question for me, I still have my team pulled up here for you to take a look at as we're discussing. And at the moment, I have the captaincy on Isak. But I do think it's a tricky week for the captaincy. I'm sort of, in fact, even as we're talking here, I think I'm wavering, and I'm going to put my bus team captain back on Salah. I know it's it's weak sauce, but I don't. I mean, the Forest defense is pretty strong as well, right? And I mean, it's a better defense than Man City's, and
definitely.
So even Liverpool away, I mean, hasn't Mo Salah scored? Like he scored more goals against Man City than any other team in the Premier League or something like that. He has an excellent goal scoring record against Man City. So I probably will just go with Salah. I hate that it's become so template again. We're just sort of, just fielding the same captain every single week. But
I simply don't see the case. I have Isak as a vice captain. And I think that's an easy decision to make because those chickens will not come home to roost.
Yeah.
But I don't see any obvious answer there apart from like Mbomo. And that to me feels awful. Like
Mbomo, Utara. Yeah. I mean, what are the featured? Yeah. I don't love. I mean, it's there's not like a match I love. I guess, and I have Rodgers on the bench. I think that makes the most sense though. It would be either Rodgers for the Chelsea match at home or Raul for the Palace match at home. And I think it's close. Like, I almost feel like if you went by XG, you'd go with Rodgers, but I'm sort of leaning towards Jimenez. I don't know.
Yeah. If I bring in a Bournemouth midfielder, it's going to be the same issue, but actually I will bench Rodgers because I have Watkins, Wissa, and Isak across the front, and benching Wissa, as much as I hate his guts right now against Leicester, is not going to work.
You're too negative about him. Like the other outcome. I mean, you weren't going to ever get Beto, were you? You would have gone.
No,
you probably would have got Njai.
No,
you would have just burned a transfer.
It's a sliding doors thing. I mean, I don't look at Wissa and see Wood, even though I dropped Wood to get Wissa. I have to look at that, and something I've been kind of calculating in my mind is as I had to drop Wood to get a cheaper guy so I could afford Arne Slot. So Slot's points are kind of going like they're matching Wood at least.
Mm-hmm.
So
right, I forgot about the that part of it. Yeah, that must have killed a lot of managers. Although God, every time that Wood scores, it's destroying my rank right now. It's a killer. All right. Well, that is pretty much that. We talked a lot about the assistant managership, which I feel like is kind of the biggest decision for a lot of people out there. And I think captaincy wise, we have kind of defaulted back to Salah. If Newcastle were playing like Wolves at home, right, or Southampton or Leicester or something like that, I would be much more inclined to go with Isak. I think he would be a perfectly legitimate captain pick at that point. But as it is, I don't love it. If Palmer were in different form, maybe you'd consider him. I don't know. Even then, it's away to Villa. I don't love that. So, okay, how about this? And let's end on this, Brandon.
Yeah.
We haven't done this in a while. Look through the table right now. Okay, we got 10 matches, and pick out your. Oh my God, what do we call him? What is the guy? It's who's our player of the week? What were we calling them?
Who's got that dog in them?
Yeah, who's our XDAWG WG for this? Not DOGG like Snoop Dogg, or DAWG for this week. Who's got that dog in him, Brandon, for game week 26?
Yeah. I'm going to go Adama Traore for Fulham at home against Palace.
Having his best ever season, I think.
I mean, that cross to Emile Smith-Rowe was delicious. Yummy.
Okay, I like that. I'll go with Utara. I mean, I don't know if that's a boring one or not, but I think that he's a fun player. He's sort of like fill the gap. He's certainly not a household name, Brandon, I would say. And he's made the most of this opportunity right now with Evan Nielsen. Yeah, it's a hard one to say, Evan Nielsen. It's if we can learn how to say Joel Linton, Joel Linton. See, I just didn't say it again.
We haven't learned. Well, and we never will. Unfortunately,
and we never will. Exactly. I'll never learn how to say
Middlesbrough.
Yeah, Middlesbrough. So I'll go with him. And then as far as the MFFA, if you can only watch one match to make fantasy, actually just to watch, to enjoy yourself this weekend, the match that I think will be the most fun, maybe the McKenna thing is biasing me here a little bit. I guess it probably is, but if I end up making that move, which I'm leaning towards, I do think that Ipswich Spurs could be a fun match. It's a really important match for Ipswich. They're in a very close battle right now with Wolves for that final. It's really just down to those two clubs now, with Leicester and Southampton not really picking up enough slack. And so I think it's a really important match for them. A good opportunity to pick up 3 points. I think that could be a really fun game.
Similarly, near the top of the table, I would go with Villa Chelsea. And if Villa were able to topple Chelsea, they move within 2 points. And that's really where you want to be on the table to get into the Europa League.
Okay.
I think this is obviously an amazing time to play Chelsea at home.
Yep.
But Chelsea have elite attacking players, namely Cole Palmer. I think that's going to be a real boxing match.
Yeah, and it's funny, we didn't really look at the Sunday matches, which are both kind of awesome. Newcastle Forest could be an important match for Forest now, having dropped the Fulham match. It feels like they really need a win, or at least a draw, and so a really important match for them. Newcastle still fighting for a Champions League spot too, and then Man City Liverpool, the most unpredictable match, I think, in their long and the kind of modern rivalry they've had over the last 5 years. I find it very hard to pick this one, with Liverpool just dipping a little bit in form and Man City maybe starting to pick things up again a little bit. It feels hard to predict this one.
Yeah, 2-2 feels kind of like a 2-2 sort of a match.
Could be.
No
Maybe
one's going to be happy.
3-2, one way or the other. I think that's a possibility as well. So that's it, Brandon. Nice, clean week ahead of us. 10 fixtures spread across 3 days. Love it. Looking forward to it.
Viva a single game week. Let's get it.
Exactly. Let's make the most of it. You'll have time to see your family and loved ones. No midweek matches to get in the way of your Wednesday afternoon meetings. Well, actually, I don't know. There's probably something going on. I don't know.
Champions
but anyway,
League,
yeah, it's something. Yeah, Champions League is actually this week. So there are a couple of so be careful with your transfers this week. So that's it, though. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll be back on Thursday with our Patreon pod. Brandon, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
Yes, as always, big thanks to the top tier, the creme de la creme producers, Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wagner-Lodahl, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin, Babas Kuhn, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner. Good luck, Jefferson. He's on the ropes in last shooter standing this week. As he does it, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislaw, Fro Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadaki, Arishi Nago, and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Fenderstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, the three Jims, James Murray Wood, James C., and James Holland, Scully, Craig at Total Maths Tutoring, and, of course, Francis Mann. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get pods. Follow us on social wherever you do that. And for all this and more, visit alwayscheating.com.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye.